So this is really day 3 and 4, where we're working on leading and getting her feet to move. I didn't have my cameraman with me on day 3, but I did quite a bit of work on really catching her up in the stable, and you'll see I've had to devise a little sort of trick way of catching her initially, but this will soon go. I actually click onto the ring on the side of the head collar, the halter there, because when I try and get under her chin, she pulls away. Now what I've discovered is she has a trauma trigger around her muzzle. Not uncommon with ponies that have been handled very early on, and somebody has put a head collar on them, perhaps tied them up so that they can brand them or inspect them or whatever needs to be done, and they've stroked the nose so that the pony connects the touching of the nose with the trauma of the capture. No matter how kind it is, it's still a traumatic experience for the ponies coming off the moor. Never seen humans before, and they're trapped. So I've got a little trick there to catch her up. Clicked onto the ring under her chin. I notice I'm putting a little tiny bit of pressure on the rope, asking her to come, and I can feel it, even though you might not be able to see it. It was a very obvious step there with her front leg there. Sometimes it's very obvious for you to see, and sometimes I can just feel it. And I'm just asking her to give to the pressure of that rope. Now I'm not looking her in the eye here. I'm soft focusing somewhere on her chest probably. I'm not really aware of what I'm looking at. I'm feeling what's happening. Now my stable's open up at the front, so I'm able to open both doors really wide. This helped with our camera angle, but it also helps them coming out through a narrow space. They find having to pass through somewhere quite tight just too much to start with. So make the doorway as wide as you can. I'm just asking her to move her feet, but I'm taking the opportunity there to touch her nose. You can see we've tied her forelock up now so she can see what's going on. And I'm just moving her feet. Now the camera stopped working at this point, probably so cold. So there's a bit of a join here, but you'll see what happens. Very light touch I'm putting on that rope, swinging her from one side to the other to try and free those feet up. Don't start pulling on them, putting any pressure on there, because they'll just pull back and you're teaching them to pull. So that's where our film got stuck. So we're just, there's a little bit, tiny bit missing there. There's her neighbour, Creedy, who's 30 years old. We think it's her great aunt, actually. Foxie is Creedy's niece.
You want this opened up?
So we're going to open up this safe area that we've got in front of the stable. That's really to stop the other horses sticking their heads in and being a nuisance. We're just opening everything up, and we've got a yard which is about the size of a 50-foot round pen that we're going to take her out into. Now I've asked her to move, and I don't want to get heavy on her head, so I'm trying different things to see what gets her to walk. So I went behind the shoulder and asked her for her to come forward. Didn't work, but now I'm just rocking her from side to side, asking each foot. Now if you watch my hand, I'm actually asking for each step at this stage. Do not try and move the whole pony. Move 1 foot at a time. It's like trying to drag a table. You can't do it, so why not speak to each foot? So I'm looking at each foot and asking it to move. Now, don't take your pony out into a very big space with this first walk, because if they do bust away from you, you could have to let go. Whereas here I've got a long rope. The footing is not slippery. We had ice earlier in the morning, but it's gone. And all I'm doing is travelling with her, putting a little feel on the rope, asking her to walk. If they do pull away suddenly and test you, she does a little try just in a minute. I left it in with the editing. Just hang on. it's actually a good thing if they pull away, because it means, here, she just pulled away very, very slightly to say, what happens if I put, look, you see, she's just going, what happens if I pull on that rope? Nothing happened. That's actually the start of teaching them to tie up. Because if you give at that point, you're actually teaching them to pull away. When we come to tie her up, which won't be for a while yet, we've got lots of time to do that, it will be very easy because she's learned to give to pressure. Now the bit that was missing there was just a lot of leading around. So this was about a 10-minute session. We just got her moving. And I'm playing her like a big fish. Now look at the feel. She's following that. Following the feel of that rope, which is what you need at this stage. Put a little pressure on. As soon as you feel that pony release, you must release back. Don't go on pulling, because if you pull and they pull and you pull, well, you can see what's going to happen. Now she's stuck, so I come over to one side to free that leg that was back. We needed to get her out of the stable and out of the safe area in front of the stable because it just wasn't a big enough space. Good. And I'm asking that hind foot just to step underneath so that she faces me. You see, you don't want them to start to look away and start to run, because you won't have any control. It's much better to keep them facing on these early walks as much as possible so that you've got control of the hind end through the head. See, look how I'm lifting that rope, asking the hind end to move. The engine of the horse is in the hind end. If you can control the hind end, then you control the horse. So she's going back to her stable now. Had a little walk out round the pen. Keep your session short to start with. She has a little snack on the way through. Hasn't eaten for about 10 minutes. She's a good eater, this pony. This is good, but we haven't got her eating hard food yet. She doesn't know what food is in a bowl, but she'll get there. Okay, just asking her to come in. And she steps over the threshold. She's never been frightened to eat in the presence of people, which is good. Shows she had a good upbringing. Used to kind people being around her. Good. And that's the end of our little session for today.